And we're joined for a third week in a row because he is so gracious with his time. Former Bills scout Gerald Dixon joining us on Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. Gerald, thanks for coming back.
Man, thanks for having me back again, fellas.
The analysis has been so good, and so it means a lot to us that you'd keep in, your willingness to keep coming back and sharing it with us. And a fascinating game this week that let's just jump into it, because even though Seattle is in the NFC, the Bills have had a couple cracks at measuring stick games. You can maybe call New England a measuring stick opponent because of the history, but New England's not the same as it's been. Seattle is the same, much like Kansas City and Tennessee being a kind of an established team in and of itself, especially making the AFC Championship game last year. So what are your thoughts on what the Bills are looking at here? How significant is this game, even though it is a non-conference game, even though there is still 8 games left in the season? But when Seattle's coming to your town, what kind of emphasis should the organization be putting on this one?
Well, I mean, I don't think you should put a lot of pressure on just one game, but as competitors, you always want to be tested to see where you're at. And I believe Seattle is a good test at the halfway mark, as you can say. And the way I look at it is, organization-wise and just player-wise, I would just look at my young talent to see how well those guys have matured. And the young guys that I'm talking about is the quarterback, Josh Allen, Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmunds. It's a big game for these guys to say, you know what, NFL, we have arrived, and the Buffalo Bills are here to stay for a while, because I believe that's what Brandon and Sean is trying to instill and build with the Bills.
Yeah, they haven't really had a statement victory this year. They've had nice wins. I think the win against the Rams was very impressive. Would have been better had they not given up a lead after however many points it was, 21 or 24 points. But there hasn't been that persuasive, I used that word earlier in the week, that just like convince me that everything's going to be okay from a fan standpoint.
Right.
You know, like this could be one of those games. I think no matter how you beat a team like the Seahawks, you're probably saying that was a persuasive win.
I agree. Because I know that Josh is a competitor, and he wants to compare himself against the top quarterbacks. And other than Russell Wilson, he's coming to town. So you got to sit there and say, okay, good. I know that I don't want to make it myself versus a quarterback, Russell Wilson, but at the end of the day, we all know it's going to come down to that, right? It's going to come down to third downs. It's going to come down to explosive plays. It's going to come down to who's not turning the ball over and who's going to control the ball game with legs and his arms. And whatever quarterback plays the better half of that game in the second half, like I always say, football doesn't really get played until the fourth quarter. That's where you're going to get the winner.
Gerald, last week we talked a lot about cornerbacks and what makes a good shutdown cornerback, and kind of a similar conversation, I guess. I'm fascinated by these receivers that are going to be on the field on Sunday, particularly for the Seahawks. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, 2 very different guys. But you mentioned Tre'Davious White. This could be one of those statement type of games. As a former cornerback yourself and somebody who's coached the position, what is the challenge that Tre'Davious White faces going up against a guy like DK Metcalf with his just physical gifts, size, speed, the whole package?
Well, like you said already, just big, fast, explosive human being, right? But not that great of change of direction and being able to change his speed. And I always thought it was easier when he played against just straight line, fast guys, because at the end of the day, if you're playing off man, like Tre'Davious is very good at, and he's good at reading routes, those taller, explosive players with a straight line speed and not a lot of wiggle in their hips typically tell you what route they're going to run once they get into about 8 to 10 yards. So once you're off and you're backpedaling, slow and backpedaling out, and you're reading through the quarterback, through the receiver, it's a telltale what route he is going to run. So I think it's going to be a difficult matchup, but just because of the route savvy that Trey White has in terms of reading routes and the average route running ability of DK Metcalf, I think Tre'Davious is going to fare out pretty well with that matchup. But also, when you look at it, you got to go on the other side and say, okay, you can stop the first route, right? And then plays get extended. And we all know that Russell is one of the better quarterbacks at extending plays and throwing those beautiful placement balls to those receivers.
And what about Tyler Lockett on the other side? Lines up in the slot a ton, and it's hard to, it would be hard enough if it was just erase DK Metcalf and, that's that. But to have a guy like Tyler Lockett on the other side, what challenge is that going to present to the secondary?
Well, just in terms of, I believe Tyler is when he gets in the slot, that's when he's really, really good. And T. Johnson this year he's been real inconsistent in terms of his man coverage ability. And when you have a guy with the route running ability and the body control and the hands and just the understanding of zone versus man, and he and Russ are on, I mean, they're locked in right now. They've been locked in for a couple of years, but right now they're in sync with each other. That's where I think the game can be changed and in favor of the Seattle with the nickel and slot matchup. I would give that bump up to Seattle, in my humble opinion.
And we know that Matt Milano has already been ruled out for Sunday. Tremaine Edmunds has had a pretty shaky season so far, and A.J. Klein has not wowed people. I'm being diplomatic, I think. Here you got Russell Wilson coming in, and we just talked about where he can throw the ball. What would be your level of concern, or what can the Bills do maybe with their call-ups, or maybe they can do something on the defensive line? I don't know. I mean, that's where your expertise comes in.
Well,
what would you do to stop Russell Wilson from his ability to just take off and run against a defense that's struggled to stop it?
Right. Unlike most mobile quarterbacks, most guys are just trying to get outside the pocket and try to go to their strong shoulder. But what Russell's shown you over the years is he's willing to step up and out to throw the ball. That's going through, navigating the pocket well, getting good depth and getting away from those tall guys. Because I don't think a lot of people understand that's one of the better things that Russell does. He gets away from those guys up front and gives himself an opportunity to see over the line of scrimmage. Because everyone's always saying, oh, he's a short quarterback. No, he gets away. And then he has enough poise and feel in the pocket to navigate that. But what I believe is if you can have those two inside guys, power rush, bull rush, take those guards and put it back into Russell's lap and take those two ends and form a cup and not necessarily get to him, but make sure that if he is going to go anywhere, if he steps up, he's going to have to step up into the lap of his two guards. And if he does go outside, maintain that outside leverage. And then that's where I believe that you can make him truly a pocket quarterback without getting out and extending those plays.
Do you think Harrison Phillips and Ed Oliver and those guys will be able to do that?
I believe Ed can, because I'm not so high on the Seattle's offensive line. And, when you have a guy, Quentin Jefferson, going back and playing against his team, you get a little bit more, you get a little bit more pumped. So I think this might be one of his better games. And he understands those guys, and I think he'll play a little bit better and give those guys a little more push up front, and also get his hands up, because he's been able to knock the ball down the last couple of weeks.
When you flip to the other side of the ball, the Seahawks, everybody talks about all the yards they give up. They've been getting toasted over the top of the defense in the passing game, but they are getting Jamal Adams back. I know he's just one guy. Can one guy make that big of a difference? Is he good enough to help some of the problems that they've been having?
Well, when you speak of Jamal is a jack of all trades, master of none, in my opinion. He's more of this. You got to be aware of him when he's around the line of scrimmage. On the back end, I'm not really worried about him, because even from college to the NFL, his production in the pass game has not been high, right? He's an average at best cover guy. The game that he did play against New England, Julian Edelman probably had the best game that he had all year. So if you're Brian Dable, you're trying to find ways to put him into coverage. And if you're Josh Allen and Brian, you're trying to locate where he is in the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage, because he's very good at blitzing. As an eighth defender, he's a very sure tackler. He's not afraid to shoot gaps when they open up. So when I look at him more of him and Budda Baker in the same realm as guys that are safeties, but they play more of a dime linebacker role and more disruptive around the line of scrimmage than on the back end. So on the back end, I don't believe they'll get help in terms of coverage, but where they can get help is when he's a blitzer, and he's good at that, as you can see over the years, as a playmaker.
Gerald, you sound like you know what you're talking about.
A little bit.
But I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Okay.
No, the analysis is awesome. I like the fact that you're willing to come on this show every week. It's a blessing.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm being sarcastic, a wise ass, which
what you're good at.
Yeah, that's true.
So let me throw.
I enjoy doing it. I don't know if I'm good at it. I enjoy doing it.
No, you're pretty good at it. So let me throw something at you real quick, and and if you think about it, and when you go into games, it's all, to me, you look at the matchups and who wins these matchups, and most likely that's who's going to come out victorious at the end of the game. If you're the Bills and you're saying this, Seattle has struggled in coverage. The Bills have run more 10 personnel. That's 4 wide receivers, more than most teams in the NFL. You'd like to get into that package because over the last few weeks, you've seen Tyler Kroft either put the ball on the ground or catch a wide open pass and stumble. So your fourth receiver is better than your tight end. Knox is just coming off of his COVID list, and he's been inconsistent with the ball in his hand. So if you can get to where you can run the ball in 10 personnel and be creative with that, also find ways to put Adams in coverage with either Beasley or Stefon Diggs. And then you can find those little matchups that you would like a little bit more than your traditional ones with the tight end versus Adams. My humble opinion.
What do you think about, there's been a lot of questions about, first 4 weeks, Josh Allen crushing man coverage. They're running all these crossing patterns and everything's just clicking. Big plays all over the place, tons of yards, tons of touchdowns. Last 4 weeks, teams are playing more zone. They're dropping back on him. It's not as if teams are just going to do that forever and he'll never hit another big play again. What does he have to do to break through that? Maybe either to change how defenses are playing or just beat how they're playing and get those big plays when teams do decide to play more zone.
So look at it in two folds. As a play caller, be a little bit more creative in the ways that you're designing plays for guys to get open. 1. 2, it comes on your shoulders now, Josh, to say, well, I'm going to throw an accurate ball in the right spot into the right person to execute those vertical throws. And when he gives guys those opportunities, just finish it with a catch.
Gerald, you mentioned at the top wanting to look at Josh Allen and how he develops and where his development is in this game. What are the things you're looking for there, and maybe projected long term? What does he need to show to be considered in that level with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, and when it comes up time for a new contract, to be paid like a quarterback like Russell Wilson?
Well, the ability to control the game, for me, that's one, and I'll get into that a little bit more. Just 2 examples: control the game, and also win games when you're not supposed to. So beat good teams. Just don't beat teams that's under 500. Now, when I say control the game, execute on third down, right? Play keep away, and keep away means don't turn the ball over to the other team with the other helmet, right? And when those explosive plays present themselves, execute and finish games. Because at times you'll see Josh have just a mind, he just loses it mentally, and you'll have 1 or 2 hiccups in the game, but the 1 or 2 hiccups are in the red zone, or they're backed up. So now you're giving the opponent an opportunity to score. And now with the explosive plays, man, sometimes that arm is so strong, he gets so much and he's so hyped up that he rips it, and it's 2 or 3 yards past the receiver. It's just more of just getting comfortable with your ability, being comfortable in the pocket and poise to just deliver it and drop it off like you've done at practice the hundreds and thousands of times that you've done it.
And being halfway through his third year quarterback that started from almost day one, how far in that development curve is he? How much better can he be in some of the things that he still hasn't mastered yet?
Well, look at it like this, and I know that I'm not gonna. Josh was a junior college quarterback, right? And then he played at Wyoming for a year, 2, right? So what you're getting is a guy that hadn't thrown the ball a lot around elite coverage and with elite players. So essentially, he's not. To me, he's not in the category of where he was. Everybody was saying in the first 4 games he's an NFL MVP. He's not there yet. He's still in the phase of learning the game, learning coverage, and learning his ability and being comfortable with it. So I don't know many JUCO quarterbacks that come out into the NFL and in 2.5 years are ready to make that jump to elite ability. I've known guys that played for 4 years and they're still not ready. So to answer your question, not going any further, I think he's a 2nd-tier, 3rd-tier quarterback right now with his play that he's shown you. Does he have the traits to be an elite quarterback? I think he has a trait to be a good quarterback. I think he has a trait to be, as I've always said, his comp is Matthew Stafford with athletic ability.
You know, Gerald, without like getting into super deep nuance of quarterback play, and this is a feel thing. And this is somebody who, you know, I throw out all those caveats. Didn't play the game, you know, not at any level that to speak of. And I tend to believe that what we have seen in the past few weeks of Josh Allen is closer to where he truly is right now in his development than those first 3 or 4 games. That those first 3 or 4 games, as much as it was dazzling and everybody jumped and said, all right, he figured it out. I would like to have seen that to continue, of course, but I think that the fact that it slid back compared to what we've seen last year, it just seems to me that this is closer than.
Right.
Why was he able to thrive so much in those first 4 weeks? Now, of course, you can look at the quality of the opponent and things like that, but it seems as though it's a totally different guy. And I don't really think anything happened injury-wise. I don't think that he's a guy whose confidence gets shook. Well, I mean, maybe it did. That's a fragile thing. Some guys are super confident, but you can still get in your head. I mean, there's all. I'm asking you, as you've been around it, the sports psychology of it, or what you see from an X's and O's standpoint. It's just such a stark line was drawn between those first 4 games and what we've seen since.
Right. Now, I think everyone was excited just because you saw the growth. It's just a jump from year 2 to year 3. For the first 4 games, you're saying, whoa, I've never seen it before. And I'm like, man. But I've always said, when you give coordinators enough film to study you, they're going to take away the things that you do well. And they're going to force you to play and make you throw it for a quarterback, make throws with things with routes and concepts that you're not comfortable with. The real good ones, the elite ones, regardless if you take it away, they can find a way. A la what you saw last night with Devontae Adams on that 3rd down route. Yeah, A-Rod said he's going to put it in there, and he's going to put it in a spot that you're not going to get to. I'm just better than you are. So
the 3rd or 4th thing that I do well is still better, is still good enough to get it done. So you can take away the best couple things I do, but I'm still going
to do it.
Yeah.
I'm still good enough. And when you're truly elite, regardless of what you do, I'm still better than what you're trying to do. Now, if you said I'm going to put 3 guys on this one guy and I got to throw it to my worst player, yeah, I'm going to make my worst player look good. So long story short, to fix it, coordinators have seen what Josh and Dave's are comfortable with. Now you have to go to your left hand, if you're right-handed, and play with your left hand and develop that. And now take check downs, And the small window of opportunities that you get, you have to take advantage of them. And that's what I haven't seen the Bills offense do in the last few weeks, if that answers your question.
It does, yeah.
When we flip it to the other side of the ball, this defense, you know, it's interesting. These two defensive secondaries, the Seahawks are allowing so many yards, but they're picking the ball off. They're getting interceptions. The Bills defense doesn't really allow the big plays, but you're looking at Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. None of them have an interception. Right. How much of that is luck of getting the ball thrown your way, and how much is that an indictment of them that they're not making those plays and forcing those mistakes, and how much is that holding them back, I guess?
Now, in the past, it was the opposite, right? They'll give up a few, but they'll make a few, right? And that evened out everything. You know, interceptions are things that they come in bunches, and some guys the ball just gets to them. But at the end of the day, most of the times when you get picks, they're going to say tips and overthrows, right? Right. Tips are when guys at the line of scrimmage are getting their hands up, or the quarterback has enough pressure in his face that he's not going to throw a pass that he can step into and feel comfortable with it, right? Overthrows, right? Same thing. There hasn't been enough pressure on the quarterback to allow those guys on the back end to get tips, overthrows, and just inaccurate passes from what I've seen from the previous years. Previous years, they were getting after the quarterback. Quarterback wasn't comfortable. There's indecisions, inaccuracy of the throws, and that's when DBs tend to make more plays on the ball. So until they improve their ability to get pressure on the quarterback, that's when you're going to see it. And you're not going to get pressure if you allow teams to run for almost 5 yards per carry.
How much do you think Tremaine Edmunds' shoulder injury from earlier in the season, I believe it's not on the injury report anymore the last few weeks, but do you think it's still affecting his play in any way?
Well, you know what? Injuries are part of the game, right? And at some point, you have to deal with it. And shoulder or no shoulder, if you're watching the game, he has a lot of false reads when you see it. Now, he's never been a take-on, knock back, the blocker type guy. He's always been a long, rangy, fairly above average athlete that can slip blocks at the point of attack. But he has never been truly a downhill thump Mike linebacker. He's always been a guy when if you run away from him, he can run you down and make those plays. So at some point, you got to grow up, bite the bit, toughen up, and bloody somebody's nose. You're Mike linebacker. End of the day.
Would he have been better off not being a Mike linebacker, you think? Maybe playing outside? Or would he have had the same problems?
I don't even think it's truly a problem. I just believe that we've never seen a linebacker 6'4", 6'5", right?
Yeah.
Like when you're that tall and that rangy, you typically play high, and it's hard to get underneath guys or blockers and knock them back. But what he does have, he has like long arms, and he has God-given ability to run. So at some point, he's going to have to find the way that he plays at a high level, and that's studying. Go back and study Urlacher. All right, figure out what Urlacher did. Urlacher was real good at keying, diagnosing, getting downhill, and finding plays. Right. Look at Luke Kuechly. At Mike linebacker's instincts, and I don't think he has the greatest instincts. He has decent instincts, but he has athletic ability. So spend a little bit more time in the film room, understanding where the pulls and the zones are going. Find your crack within that defense, and at times you just got to pull the trigger and shoot it. And there's times that he's just holding back too much for me and not just going. Like you see Milano just run in there and just throw his body around with no regard. Trey, not so much.
Yeah, and Milano pays the price for it. Another game that he'll be on the sidelines. But when he's out there, you know what you're going to get.
That's the only way that he knows how to play. I'm telling you, he's not big enough to sit there and take on 300-pounders, shock, shed, and get rid of them and play. So he's going to try to find creases within the defense, shoot it, and he has enough speed and closing ability and suddenness to finish the play. At some point, you got to play linebacker.
Is Darren Lee somebody that can help this defense if he gets out on the field at some point soon?
Just with his sheer athletic ability and his ability to run, yes. And he's always had good coverage ability. Now just learning the defense and find his way to fit, I believe he can help. But D. Lee's always had the issue of taking on blockers and being physical at the point of attack. And at some point, you got to figure out your role and how you're going to either not take blocks on, slip them, and get in the backfield, or just every now and then thump somebody.
Gerald, let's end up with on a positive note here, because I think that this player, as much credit as he's gotten, I think is still underrated, because I think that's how impressive he's been, and part of that's my fault. I haven't written about him as much as I probably should have. I think Stefon Diggs has been incredible, and I think I see him on a weekly basis making it look easy.
Right.
Now, I know he has his baggage or from whatever whatever happened in Minnesota where things didn't go well. We haven't seen that here. Maybe we never do. Maybe it's all a myth. I don't know. Some players have this mystique that follows them around and it's not necessarily justified. What's your take on him so far, what you've seen, and the idea that Minnesota decided to trade this guy away?
Well, I'm not going to touch on why they traded him away. They've had him for a while, and then they thought that his value wasn't worth the price that they were paying. So they did what they had to do. I love him. I think he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And again, you can't go wrong when you have a guy coming from Maryland, right? Montgomery County, Maryland. You fail with that, right?
I didn't even think of that.
It's coming.
You're such a homer.
It's coming. The metropolitan area, DMV is what they call it now. It's coming. So, but
You are a homer.
in terms of what Steph brings to the game, he's in the same area in terms of, or same ranking with me with Devontae Adams as a route runner, right? Those guys and Keenan Allen, their ability to change speed and separate at the top of the route is unbelievable. And when you have, and when you're a quarterback, you know that he's going to get separation. And what he's brought to this team is the element of being able to uncover himself when he's going against an elite defender, and just the confidence that the quarterback has in him is just saying, hey, listen, I know that even if I stare him down, he's going to get open. And that's what he brings in terms of, if you want to say number one receiver, yeah, that's what he is. And a superstar.
Okay, so what is it about me, my untrained eye, when I see him? What am I picking up on that's so impressive that makes him different than just anybody else? Why does he make it, to the layman, why does he make it look so easy? As opposed to, you see a great receiver out there, you can tell he's working, he's, an underneath guy, slot guy, or just a guy who runs, fly patterns. There's something about it that just makes it look, you're stunned when he doesn't make the play.
Well,
stunned may be too harsh a word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. His ability to change speed, right? And I always talk about that because everybody always thinks that if you're a receiver, you got to run fast. Yeah, run fast. But if I know that you're running fast and I'm off at eight yards, I can flip and run with you. I already have an 8-yard start on you. But what Steph does, he is so smooth and sudden at the same time. So you see him coming off, and you're like, he's not running fast. Then he has the ability to change speed, then put his foot in the ground without any change in his body, and be able to come out of it with explosion to create separation. So he lulls a lot of people to sleep. You say, oh yeah, he's not running fast. Then he speeds up, stops, explodes out of it with a cut. And that's where you see him and you say, wow, he's not even running that hard. He's not. He just looks real smooth doing it.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Maybe
Who's
I
going to be the best receiver on the who will be the best receiver in this game on Sunday?
Oh, Steph Diggs.
Think it's not close? He's that much better than DK and Lockett?
See, DK is...
What if Metcalf was from Baltimore?
Then I still say Steph Diggs.
All right. I got to even this. I got to even the scales in some way for this.
Well, DK is an Ole Miss guy, so that might be playing into it here. If he was a Bama guy, I don't know.
No, I respect DK.
What if Tyler Lockett went to Johns Hopkins? Then who?
He's still out in Baltimore, so he don't count. Nah, so you got to be from Montgomery County. But either way, no, I like Tyler. I think Tyler is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. But DK, he's so big, fast. It's ridiculous, right? But at some point, you're going to have to develop a little bit more route savvy to scare an elite corner. Because like I said earlier, when you're playing against a guy that predetermines his route about 3 yards, being able to not come to a full stop, it's easier to put your foot in the ground and come out of it if you're a corner, rather than a guy like Steph Diggs or Tyler Lockett that can change speed, stop, get out of it immediately, right? And just suddenness to get out of his break. You'll see a lot of chops in DK in his feet at the top of his route. So if he ever gets better at the top of his route, which is, I haven't seen it, I would put him into that elite category with Julio Jones, because he has a lot of Julio Jones traits, right? But Julio Jones over the last years has become one of the better route runners for a tall and explosive guy. So the comparison to Megatron, I think it's comparable, because Megatron only had a few routes in him as well too.
When you were a corner, did you ever have anybody do anything close to you like DK Metcalf did to Budda Baker a few weeks ago when he chased him down and tackled him?
Impossible. Now, I've ran a lot of guys down. I've walked a lot of people down. Yeah, that ain't happening. I don't care if you run a 4.1. I was talking to I was talking to Roman Harper. I'll give a shout out to Roman. And I said I would have to either I pulled a hamstring or something, but there's no way on this green earth that I'm going to get walked down like that. You can give
What about Champ Bailey having it happen to him? Ben Watson of all people. You remember that play?
Yeah, Ben is a tight end. Yeah,
right.
Ben can roll. Yeah.
Champ Bailey, Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Okay. Tight end.
I understand Don Beebe chasing down Leon Lett. All right.
Listen, 200 and Ben. You know what? Ben can roll too. But either way, that's a corner running down a tight end, not a receiver running down a defensive back. No, not happening. Something's gonna happen. My hamstring, a cramp, something. But there's no way that you're gonna walk me down. That's gonna be on NFL films for the next 150 years. The greatest walk down ever.
Oh, and based on what you're saying, all he had to do was run in some zigzags, make DK change direction, and he would have been all set.
That's all I'm saying. Do something. Run across do something. Act like you're out of breath, but just don't get walked.
He's going to be a meme for a long time.
Oh, man. You better make some money off of that.
Or if he just stopped, DK Metcalf would have kept going for about 10 yards.
Listen. Do something other than get tackled.
Gerald Dixon, thanks for doing this, man. I don't know. Can we chalk you up for next week already? Is this becoming are we wearing you out?
No. Pencil me in. I'm here.
This is a lot of fun. Well, we'll come up with we don't want to just break down the game. We'll come up with some positional stuff. I feel a lot smarter after we talk.
Listen, we got to get in some top 10, top 5. We got to do something.
All right.
I got a list.
I'll shoot you so that way you're prepared. So that way you're not doing it off the top of your head. A couple days in advance, I'll throw a topic out there, and we'll see how many Maryland/Alabama guys end up on the list.
Yeah, I want to know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, John.
Well, I want to know, maybe you can think about this over the week, if you got a power ranking or a list of Alabama media beat writers and where certain people might fall on that list.
You follow Mike Rodak down there?
You know what? Mike is down there. How's he doing? Does he love T-Town?
He lives in Birmingham.
He's in Birmingham?
Yeah.
One of the most underrated cities. Right? One of the most underrated cities.
Never been. But I think he's doing well. I think he and his family love it, and I think he's doing well. And in fact, I saw he's writing basketball stories now. So he's tracking down Nate Oates and talking about Crimson Tide basketball. So I think between those 2 seasons, he's plenty busy. It's got to be like covering an NFL team. Probably not much different than when he was covering the Bills. When you go down there and cover the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, you just can't step on Nick's toes.
I think that may have
Easier
happened
said than done.
I think we've heard some story. Yeah.
You get put in the penalty box real quick.
Does he wear lifts?
Huh?
Does he wear lifts? You don't pretend like you didn't hear me. You heard me.
Does he wear
Does Nick Saban wear lifts?
No, he just looks like a giant because he's sitting on top of all his national championship rings.
I see. Okay. All right, we'll stop there. Gerald Dixon, thanks for doing this, man. Very nice of you.
All right, appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
All right, take care.